you're a worship drummer who is interested in getting your sounds right and getting your drum kit to sound great, are you in a place where you're being told constantly that you're playing so loud and yet you're giving it everything that you've got? Are you a drummer who's playing in church and you want to give your best and you want to be excellent with what you do? Hey there, this is Threads, and this is the channel where our prime focus is to resource you as a musician, to resource you as a creative, to help you to do what you do well and to be excellent at everything that you do. So subscribe, comment, like, share this video. In the corner there you'll be able to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications if you like to be notified when we have a fresh video every Friday. So here we go, check out this video as it continues with Joe and Lewis.
Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm sat here with the legend that is Joe Morris. Yeah, one of the many drummers at Coventry Elim.
And this, of course, is Lewis. He smells lovely. He's a fantastic drummer. So we're here to talk a bit about the heart of a worship drummer and what it means to play in church.
Sounds good. So I guess we have to contextualize a bit. We looked at worship for a little bit, didn't we?
A long time.
Yeah. we studied worship.
Yeah.
So what, I guess, if you were to narrow it down to anything, what would you say it is to you?
I guess worship, biblically speaking, is about kind of bringing a sacrifice and an offering to God. So the first mention of worship in the Bible is Abraham being asked to sacrifice Isaac. So it's like a big kind of sacrifice and offering to God. And Isaac is obviously such a big symbol of the provision of God. And it's God saying will you lay anything down for me? So and worship in the church context obviously looks more like us coming together as a body and singing to God and offering praise that way. And through that we give ourselves and we give an offering from ourselves. So that's kind of the context that we get to drum in, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We get to lead people into.
Yeah, I love that. Just that whole idea of a sacrifice and bringing whatever you have, whether it's feeling amazing or actually this is a really tough thing.
Yeah. And it's important to bring that however you feel. If you feel it's hard to play to the songs, the words that are saying I trust you, God, and actually you don't. It's that's fine. Just bring yourself. But yeah, it's cool that we get to do that and we get to be real before God and we get to lead people towards God. Yeah.
Declaring in faith, man, it's so powerful. I love it. Yeah.
So we should chat a bit about how we prep for a Sunday as well.
That's a good idea.
When you talk about, obviously, it's more than just a week's build-up, it's whole life's preparation, but why don't you chat a bit about how you would go about preparing for a Sunday?
Yeah. So I guess to contextualize, we do church a little differently. So we meet in a theatre, the Belgrade Theatre in the middle of Coventry. We're there at 11 a.m. on Sunday, if you're ever in town.
Come on.
And we kind of take all our stuff over in a van every week. So church for us starts very early. It's an 11 a.m. service, but setup starts at 7:30 a.m. You and I both know that feeling of getting up for a 7:30 start.
We spoke about the sacrifice.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's it can be a slog sometimes, but it's a joy, and it really is, and it's kind of everyone coming together to just kind of prep this space.
Yeah.
We have people coming in to set up stuff. We have people coming in to mic stuff. The equipment that you'll see a bit later on, it's all kind of professional level. It's really, really cool. And for us, we get to be a part of that just assembly. And it literally feels like we are prepping this space as almost taking this ground as holy. While we're sound checking and practicing, there are people walking around the building praying for it and declaring things over it. And then at the same time, there are people mopping the floors and cleaning the toilets.
It's just as important.
Exactly, yeah. It's creating this environment for people to meet with God.
Yeah.
And we get to play a part in that whenever we're serving. And that's amazing. So yeah, I love that side of the preparation. And it's almost like the outside is almost cleaning away the kind of dirt and getting to kind of what's important. And I feel like we do that with our hearts as well when we come in. We're kind of, I'm just, whatever I've gone through this week, I'm bringing to the Lord, but at the same time I'm laying down at His feet. Because there's a task that He's doing, there's a congregation that needs leading.
And like the heart of the drum is the service of the church, right? And it's like leading with or without the sticks. Like, what can we bring when we're not drumming? And what you said about the prep is spot on. Like, it's like mopping is just as important as drumming in terms of worship leading. Yeah, I love that. And it's important, like, in preparation, that we lead from overflow, and that obviously we said it's cool if you're having a bad week to still lead, but we want to lead from a place of like discipleship and overflow, because I mean, like, the Bible talks about Old Testament musicians being like as prophets, and the Bible also speaks about prophecy is to reveal Jesus, and if you don't know Jesus, you can't reveal Him. Like, it's so important as like a biblical musician, I guess, in this context as a drummer, to really know God and to know His heart for the church, so that we can reveal something of Him when we're on stage. And
absolutely.
And it's not like a performance that we're striving to think like, what should we do here, but it's just an overflow, and we're playing to God, but in service of the church.
It's such a good point of like, we are as drummers bringing a revelation of who Jesus is. And that's an amazing thought. Like, I love that. And of course, like that famous story in Matthew of like Him being like, from the overflow of the heart the mouth speaks, and I guess from the overflow of the heart the hands play as well. But it's like, just we're filling up on something to then pour out onto the rest of the people. Which is such a cool image.
Great. I think we're going to go into the Old Testament a bit.
Let's go old school.
So a lot of the Old Testament kind of almost like responsibility of musicians is like the whole idea of leading into battle. And I love the story in 2 Chronicles 20. King Jehoshaphat is like the leader of the tribe of Judah, and there are all these armies like that have decided to just declare war on the tribe of Judah, and he prays the great prayer like, we don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. And then the Spirit of God comes on a man that's there, and he says like, the battle is not yours but belongs to God. So then the following day he decides to send out like musicians ahead of the armies, and the armies just start to fight amongst themselves. But the cool thing is like, the musicians aren't, the singers are, all they're doing is they're just singing, give thanks to God, His faithful love endures forever. They're not saying like, we're going to win this battle, like we're going to fight the enemy. They're just saying like, lift your eyes to God, His faithful love endures forever. And that's all we can do. Is like, we don't have to strive to fight for something, because we go ahead as musicians to claim battle on behalf of the church, but we don't fight for them. Like, we fight with them, but people have to fight their own battles. Like, we can't strive for other people, but what we can do is go ahead, plough some in the ground, so that when people come in, like, we've made some ground already, because we've been there for 3 hours worshipping already. People are coming in like, who have had a stressful morning, like dropping off their kids or whatever. So we've gone ahead and ploughed that ground, like, as the musicians. But people still have to fight their own battles, right? Like, we can't do that for them. So, but I love that we do play a part in like the preparation and kind of the going ahead. And that's really important, that we're in that position to be able to do that, to go ahead. Yeah, man. And that prayer as well, it's so good. And I can imagine we've prayed that so many times. Stage, like, I don't. I have no idea what I'm doing, but my eyes are on you. And every Sunday morning.
Absolutely, It's that thing of when you're in a place of being led by the Holy Spirit. It's kind of like, oh, okay, it's out of my hands now. God, I'm gonna do what you tell me to do. And just that thing of like, it is such a, especially drums, there's like such an intrinsic link with like battle and like war games and that kind of thing. It's like, such a cool image of us kind of being on the front line of a battle army and just walking down into it. And what we're bringing is the sound that people are marching to.
Love that.
And whatever that is, and that whether we're doing, this is how I fight my battles, like we're going and singing that, or whether it is like, give thanks to the Lord, His love endures forever. Just us going in and like Joshua 3 when they're crossing the Jordan with the ark, like the priests going first.
I love that.
They're carrying, the this amazing presence of God, and they go into the river, and as soon as they step in, the water stops, and they kind of create that space for the people to cross. And yeah, like you said, we're not going in and fighting battles for people, we're fighting them with people.
Yeah, sure.
And we give them that space.
Yeah, and we fight from victory, don't we? It's said so often, but it's important that we don't go in striving, like thinking, oh, I hope we win this Sunday morning.
Yeah.
like watching the football fixtures on the Sunday night. It's like we go in like fully aware that we're on the winning side, but also mindful of people that aren't aware of that, and if we can just like present something that helps that lift their gaze towards God, then we've done our job, I guess, haven't we? Like,
it's so true. Of like, some people don't know what victory looks like, or what does that even mean in a church context. So yeah, it is like so vital for us that we're like creating that thing of actually, we're the winning team, guys, we've won, it's cool. Yeah, but that Ephesians 6 thing, man, of like we're going in like armor clad and fighting. Sure, it's so cool.
Let's chat a bit about like humility as drummers.
And humidity, it gets warm up there.
Humility and humility are interchangeable. I think like so often, because drums are just so loud, like naturally, they're just loud. We're hitting a piece of metal with a piece of wood. It's just loud.
Come on.
I think often like we feel like we have a right to just do whatever we want, and like, and obviously sometimes it calls for it. Like, we don't want to hold back if God's going somewhere and we want to take it there. But I think like in the smaller churches, I think it's really important to practice like humility, and it's just not about us. Like, worship is so much more than like, did I get to have a really good time on the drums today? The wider context of helping the whole church body to engage. And I think practically, like, just being sensitive to the room, like, if you can see people with their fingers in their ears, just like chill out a bit. Like, obviously if God's gone somewhere, we want to go there too, and we want to get to those high places. But I think, I don't know if you've got something to offer on like how we can be humble and like and serve in that way, rather than just thinking like we have a right to just
absolutely. And this is why I love chatting with Joe, because he's got such good wisdom on this kind of thing, like all this kind of knowledge, but at the same time it comes back to the sole point of it's not about us. Like, ultimately it's about lifting praise upwards. And I guess for us in church as well, we have things like tracks and clicks, and we have like a production element to it, and you're involved with Limitless Festival, where again there's like a lot more kind of a production element to it as well, and the lines can get like skewed sometimes, I guess, in your brain of like, is this a performance now? Is this gone beyond worship? But I think ultimately it comes back to that one question of like, where's the praise going? And that humility of saying that, okay, this looks cool, but we know that we're not doing this for us. I'm not looking to be thanked or kind of like congratulated afterwards. That this is just, what I felt God was telling me to bring. And just that humility of being like, actually, there's a time where it's right to, go in hard, and it's right to smash the drums away, because that's what we need to do right now. But one of the things that I feel separates good drummers from great drummers is knowing when not to play.
That's great, man.
It's just as important, isn't it?
I think it's Miles Davis that says it takes a great drummer to be better than no drummer at all, which is so true.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, that feeling of, okay, when is it right for me to just drop out? And that comes back because, again, it's not about me trying to be heard. Maybe they need the keys right now. Maybe they need just a guitar, or they just need to say something with their voices. But this thing of, I can drive when I need to, but sometimes I'll just sit back and wait for it.
That's great, man. And I think you should also talk. I'm making you talk a lot. This guy can hit harder than most people. So let's chat about like those high points of praise when. Because I think it's true that I'm saying this as humble as possible, that if the drummer doesn't take it somewhere, it just won't go somewhere. So there are times on a Sunday where like we need to be declaring like real high praise, and we're talking about like strongholds coming down and God having no rival, and we can't just sit there and tickle the ride.
Absolutely.
It's not how it works. So
absolutely.
like chat about some of those times when you've just gone for it. Like I can remember it. It's great.
Yeah, it's I guess it's one of the beauties of playing in such a big room is that we have like quite large cymbals as well. We play like 18 and 20-inch cymbals, and that's just crashes.
17-inch hi-hat.
That's it. We've really experimented and pushed the boundaries of what we can do. So our kits sound huge, and in small rooms, they're absolutely deafening. But in this in this big space, it really fills it out. So, and for me, like I'm a 5B guy, so I love those heavier weighted sticks.
Yeah.
And when it calls for it, when you really want to go for that like high praise and just declaring, God, you have no rival, like Joe said, like I'm not holding back on that. I am fully crashing out.
Yeah.
And that's like, yeah, I guess it's a way of, it's declaring, and something I have to think about every time is, how am I declaring what God has done in my life? How do I show that these lyrics are true through my playing? You know, how do I praise God without my mouth?
Yeah. Sure.
And so that's like my attitude when it comes to the high praise moments. So that I'm like, I'm declaring, God, you have victory in this moment. You know that you have, like Easter. We just had Easter Sunday. Like, you've conquered the grave. You are alive, and death is defeated. I am not holding back in that moment. That's like the biggest hallelujah. So yeah, it's like a lot of crashes and just hard hits, because it's that kind of declaring that like this is true, and I'm not letting anyone tell me otherwise.
And the drums are like so dynamic. Like we have a lot of control over how the music sounds and like how the expression sounds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can really take it from like a quiet place of like intimacy and or whatever, and it almost, if everyone else plays the same, like if the drummer changes, that changes probably more so than most other instruments, just because like the dynamic level.
Yeah,
so yeah,
absolutely.
we have a lot of like responsibility in terms of controlling dynamics and how it sounds like on Sunday mornings.
Cool. Thanks for joining us at the drums. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the kind of setup we have and what kind of gear we tend to use, so that we can get an indication of generally our kind of approach to the drums in worship. So our setup is relatively minimal. We're kind of big fans of the kind of one up, one down, one rack tom, one floor tom kind of approach. A snare here, generally we'll go for like a 14 by, usually for me I play like 6.5. This one's a little thinner, I think this is a 5.5. And so yeah, we've got like a kind of classic snare, and then two toms, lovely and big. So this one's I think it's a 12 and this one's like a 16. So you get those nice kind of warm, big sounds from them. The cymbals we've got on the top here, right here, Joe and I have been experimenting a lot lately, and we've come up with the idea of an 18-inch set of hi-hats. So this is two crashes that we've attached a hi-hat clutch to. And if you're not used to it, it can look a bit overwhelming. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. But I think it's really cool because 14-inch hats are great. I'm not putting those down if you do use those. It's more a case of sometimes you need that wash, and for us, they really make a lovely washy sound, and you get this kind of, like really warm, dark wash from them, which sometimes is exactly what you need. So, yeah, these really do open up, and they play a lovely, lovely warm sound. In terms of crashes here, on the left here is our main crash. We've got an Istanbul Agop crash. This is an 18-inch traditional one. Very, very dark, very, very warm. Those lovely handmade cymbals are always good. You hear that lovely dark wash that you get from there. Joe, what are you holding there? What have you got? Yeah, let's do it. So this here we've got, this is a Byzance, a Meinl Byzance 20-inch extra thin hand-hammered crash. I told you we used big cymbals. Absolutely lovely wash. So these are really great if we're in those moments of like high praise and we need something to really kind of elevate the dynamic. This is really, really cool. And over on the right here, we've got our ride cymbal. Now, this one is an absolute gem, because this is a Zultan Ride. Is this 22-inch, Joe? Yeah. Yeah, this is a 22-inch ride. This costs about £130 from Thomann. So if you're kind of on a bit more of a tighter budget, then this is a really good investment, because it washes like a shower, but at the same time, it really does play the part. So it's got a lovely kind of bell sound. You can hear that wash already, and really does open up. And so what we've got here are then cymbals that are very, very thin, but also very, very flexible, which means that you can really go for them and not have to worry about cracking them. Yeah, so these are our best friends when it comes to worship, because they're such expressions and almost like extensions of ourself. Like, yeah, cymbal choices are quite an important thing for a drummer. I'm sure they'll tell you. Yeah, and so here we've got a quite modest sort of Mapex Saturn series. We've got the kind of Remo pinstripe heads on. We love those because they feel quite attacky, but at the same time they really do create this warm tone. And for us as drummers, like, we really appreciate that warmer tone. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about the gear we've got here. And these are mic'd up just with some kind of classic Shure mics. You can get these for like a low 3-figure number. And yeah, Joe, did you want to talk a little bit about the dynamics?
Okay, so I'm going to chat a little bit about dynamics and how we can like control the level of volume when we're playing in church. So I'm fully aware that a lot of the stuff we speak about is in our context, where we're privileged to have quite a big building, but might not be the case for probably the majority of you. So what I'll do is I'll play, like, I've got some 5Bs, some ProMuck 5Bs, quite a thick stick. I'll play like a beat that would just be in like one of the songs that we would play on a Sunday, and then I'll show you some tricks that we can do to like bring the volume down. So that's about the level that we would probably play out on a Sunday. It's not going to be appropriate if you're in like a little sports hall. So there are some things that you can do. The first, which is not my favourite, I have to be honest, is the hot rod. You can play the same beat, it's going to sound quite different. The dynamic comes down a lot, but I think you get quite a harsh, and you get a lot of like top end with the hot rods, and it increases like the treble a bit, which is quite a harsh tone. So if you need just like volume dynamic, they're a good shout, but I think you can go one better with the brushes. I think you get hopefully you'll tell, hopefully the mics will pick up that you get a bit of a warmer tone with the brushes. You get like a that's nice if you've got like a smaller band setup. I really would recommend going with these. You've got the mallets as well. Quite often what we do is just a lot of swelling, like just to increase, I guess, like the atmosphere or volume dynamic. We would, if you play a swell with the sticks, you get the initial kind of. If you want to avoid that, grab yourself some mallets. Butter. One resource that we use is the big fat snare drum. I think this costs about 20 quid. Snare without it will sound like this. Love that. But with it on, it's just like a vinyl or like a film pad. Takes a lot of the high end off and reduces the volume quite a lot. So. And without it. So it changes the tonal quality of the drum quite a lot, but it sounds absolutely lovely, and the dynamic comes down a fair amount. So those are some of the tricks that we use just to control dynamics. But I think the way that you play as well is important. You can play the same thing, but it can sound totally different, but still sound right. So like I demonstrated earlier, you could play a part like this, but that's going to deafen people on the front row. And you can play the same part in this way. So that's just having total sensitivity to the room. If you're in a smaller room, you're playing exactly the same thing. It still sounds nice. If you've got a washy ride, you don't have to crash it. You can still, and you can hear it sustains nice for a longer amount of time. The thinner the cymbal, like this is pretty thin, you can bend it quite a lot. The thinner the cymbal, the more kind of wash you're going to get from it. So you can control like the level and still play the right part, but it will sound totally different, and it should hopefully, because what we want to do is serve the music and serve the church, so hopefully by bringing the volume down a bit, you can do that.
So one of the things I'm going to talk about now is the use of electronic drums. Certainly in the 21st century, it's something that is becoming almost an essential requirement for any kind of industry standard drummer, is to know how to use electronic drums and incorporate this into their setup. We're quite fortunate at Coventry Elim to have drummers who own a Roland SPDSX, and if you don't know what that is, it looks like one of these. And so this is essentially an electronic sampling pad. So you have 9 pads here. Each of these can be assigned a different noise or sound, and you can kind of assign that through kind of hooking it up with a laptop and anything like that. It's really, really easy. And it also comes with like a bunch of inbuilt sounds, and you can kind of edit and mess about with those on here. You can kind of sample yourself and add like a load of effects and filters and stuff like that as well. There's also a couple of outputs here, as well as foot switches, so you can use this as kind of a brain and attach a bunch of like triggers to it. So sometimes we can put a trigger on the snare here and have that attached to a sample on this device. And so what that means then is it's another expression of us adding different sounds to our worship. And I should clarify as well that this is a complete optional extra. This isn't essential. God doesn't inhabit our samples. It's more a thing of as long as our hearts are in the right place. Like, we're quite fortunate in being able to have these, but if you don't have them, or if you've never seen this before, or you feel it's a bit out of your price range, like, that's totally okay. It's completely optional. We generally have 2 drummers on a Sunday, and so somebody will be assigned to the SPDSX and probably an extra floor tom, going for that real like war drum sound, and then another drummer will be on the kit here. So together we can create a really cool offering of worship.